It's prediction time. There are 2 rounds left in the Candidates 2024 and we have 3 joint leaders. Yan Nepomniachtchi from Russia, Gukesh Domraju from India and Hikaru Nakamura from the USA. All of these guys have 7.5 points out of 12 possible points. They're all on +3. But Yan Nepomniachtchi has not lost a single game in this tournament. The only person who hasn't lost a game. He has 3 wins and all the rest of his games were draws. Hikaru Nakamura, a real fighter, has lost 2 games to the very same person, Vidit Gujrati, but has won 5 games and is also with the same number of points as Yan and Gukesh has tragically lost 1 game to Alireza Firuja due to time trouble and blundering under time pressure, and he has won 4 games. So these guys are all joint leaders, but they are closely followed behind by Fabiano Caruana with 7 points. So he's just half a point behind and he has also real chances to win the event. Then after those guys we have a big gap, and then goes Pragnananda Ramesh Babu with 6 points. Realistically, he's out of contention, and everyone else is also out of contention. Alireza, Vidit, and Nijat Abbasov. They all will not be able to win this event, unfortunately. You know, Alexander Grishuk, a Russian grandmaster who also has participated in the candidates a couple of times, he said that it's a really sad feeling to be participating in the candidates and closer to the end of the event to realize that you realistically stand no chance of winning the event, but you still have to show up, still have to play games. And this is the mentality of players, probably the rest of the field, except for the 3 leaders and Fabiano Caruana. So this will influence the results of the upcoming 2 rounds, and now I will give my predictions. Who am I to give predictions? Well, I'm a nobody, so you shouldn't listen too much to my predictions, but still sometimes my predictions turn out to be just fine. For example, last round I predicted 3 out of 4 games correctly, so sometimes my predictions come true. And also I personally know many of the players. Yan Nepomniachtchi and Fabiano Caruana, for example, have been to my podcast. Check out the episodes with them in the links in the description. So I know something about their mentality, and I can guess how they might envision the optimal strategy for the upcoming 2 rounds. So there are just 2 rounds left, round 13 and round 14. If after those 2 rounds we still have not 1 but 2 or 3 leaders, or maybe 4, this is also possible, 4 leaders, then there will be tie breaks, there will be games played between the leaders, I assume. Previously a different system used to be in place, so tie breaks were determined by some mathematics, which is a little bit weird and which led to some crazy complications. For example, in 2013, when Vladimir Kramnik and Magnus Carlsen were in shared first before the last round of the candidates, they both lost in the final round. This was a very interesting event, and Magnus qualified for the championship match against Vishy Anand and finally won it and became the world champion, and we all know this story, the rest of the story. Back then a different system was used, and although Kramnik had the same number of points as Magnus, he took the 2nd place without even any match between the 2, because of this tiebreak system. And now a different system is used, a fairer one, I think, a system in which joint leaders have to play against each other, a match, a mini match. So we'll get into that later. Let's try to predict the results of round 13 and round 14. So in round 13, Yan Nepomniachtchi is playing with the white pieces against Hikaru Nakamura, and this will be a very important game for the standings, obviously because both of them are in joint lead. I assume that Yan will not risk too much, and I assume that Hikaru will neither, because they don't have to go all in. They are joint leaders, and if they risk too much and lose, they will effectively probably lose all hope of qualifying for the championship match. If they draw, it's a fine result for both of them. They are still in contention, they still have decent chances. So probably they will both be playing cautiously. Jan Nepomniachtchi throughout this tournament has been playing exclusively 1e4. Maybe he will try to surprise Hikaru and play something else, but I doubt that. Actually, there were many opportunities for Jan to surprise his opponents playing something else, but it seems like he's sticking to something that is working for him, and it is 1e4. Although I cannot exclude any surprises. But still, Hikaru is extremely well prepped. By the way, it is my cat, two of my cats running in the background, so you can spot them. So Hikaru is extremely well prepped. He has surprised his opponents in many games, playing some weird lines against Fabiano Caruana with black, against Pragnananda Ramesh Babu he played a weird line with black, so-called the box. So maybe Hikaru surprises Jan playing something unorthodox with black, but he will not go for risky openings, that's for sure. He will try to be solid. If Jan overpresses, he might try to play for a win, but otherwise he'll play for a draw. He will equalize with black probably comfortably, and then they will make a draw to go into the final round and see what happens there. Hikaru Nakamura, it should be noted, hasn't lost a single game since 2022 until these candidates, where he lost 2 games to Vidit. So he was playing for 2 years without a single loss. 50 games in a row, I think, something like that. So he's very solid. If he needs a draw, if he needs to avoid risk, he will avoid risk, and that's what he'll do, I think. Let's look at other pairings for round 13. So Prague is playing with the white pieces against Fabiano Caruana. I predict a draw here. So Prague is effectively out of contention. Even if he wins both of his games, he now has 6 points. So if he even by some miracle wins 2 games, he will have 8 points, and that will not be enough to win, because currently the joint leaders all have 7.5, and someone will definitely score more than 8. So Prague does not have any motivation to try and play for a win, to try and create some chaos on the board, surprising Fabiano. I think Prague will play solidly, and Prague will be in the mentality that was described by Alexander Grishuk. He will just want this tournament to be over. It was not a failure for him by any means. He is on 50%, but I think he's a little bit bitter at this point, because he had some decent chances at some point. Just luck turned his face away from him, I think, in some of the games. So he's probably a little bit disappointed, but I think he has great psychological stability, and I think he will be able to stop the bleeding from his previous mistakes and make a draw, be solid, because he's playing with the white pieces against Fabi. He will choose some solid opening, and I don't think that Fabi will go all in against Prague, because Fabi can go all in the last round when he's playing Jan Nepomniachtchi with white pieces. So with black pieces, probably Fabi will also play cautiously, not risk too much, and I predict a draw in this pairing. Gukesh versus Alireza Firouzja is another pairing for round 13. I think that this will also end in a draw. Alireza has lost a bunch of games. He is on tilt, of course, but I don't think that he will lose another one here. So Gukesh again will not risk too much. He will play solidly, because he would predict that Nepo and Hikaru probably make a draw, so he doesn't have to win in this game. He will play solidly, and I think that Alireza, if he has listened to the advice of his coaches, will stop risking too much, because there is no point now risking going all in. Even if he wins both of the remaining games, he will not join the leaders. So probably I predict a draw in this game as well. And the last game, Vidit versus Abbasov. Vidit is playing with the white pieces. I think Vidit will win. I think Abbasov has lost most of his games with black in this tournament, with the only exception being, I think, the game against Nepo, where he played like a beast. I mean, Abbasov played at 98% accuracy, almost like a computer, and completely equalized out of the opening and didn't give Jan any chances. But that was an exception. In most black games, Abasov is struggling and losing. So I think that Vidit will win this game. I think it will be a nice consolation for him. He's a very fighting player and he has lost a bunch of games here, but he has also won a bunch of games, including 2 wins against Hikaru Nakamura, which is really impressive. I think Vidit has lost 4 or something like 4, maybe even 5 games in this tournament, but he has won a lot. So this will be another win for Vidit, I think. And with that, the round will conclude. And nothing will really change for the standings, because the leaders will all make draws. Fabi will also make a draw, so there will still be 3 joint leaders, and there will be 1 person who is half a point behind, who is Fabiano Caruana. And with that, we go into the final round, the round that will determine the winner, unless we have several leaders after round 14, and then we will have to wait for the tie-break matches, or match if there are just 2. So, round 14. Hikaru Nakamura is playing against gukesh D with the white pieces. Yes, Hikaru will probably try to win, because there is a chance that Jan Nepomniachtchi wins his game, and in that case, Hikaru will need a win to stay in shared first. But I don't think that Hikaru will risk too much. And I don't think that gukesh will risk too much playing with the black pieces. So they probably will assume that Jan and Fabi, this game can and will most likely end in a draw, both players being very good players, solid players, and Jan never having lost a game in this tournament. So I don't think that Hikaru or gukesh will go all in. I think that Hikaru will try to press using his advantage because he's playing with the white pieces. But I think that gukesh is playing phenomenal chess in this event, with the only exception of losing the game to Alireza due to time trouble. But I'm sure he has learned his lesson and he will not get into time trouble. And I think Hikaru and him will make a draw. The second game of the round is Alireza Firouzja versus Vidit. This can end in any way, but I also predict a draw. Alireza will already be tired. I think he will not have any motivation to play for a win. And Vidit will be playing with black pieces, so he's unlikely to get any advantage out of the opening. So I think it's going to be a relatively quick and easy draw for both players. Then we have Abasov versus Pragnananda. This game does not have any influence on the final standings in terms of who wins the event, but probably Prag will try to play something creative in the opening, and if he gets an advantage, he will try to press and win the game. But still, no one except for gukesh has been able to defeat Abasov with black in this tournament, because Abasov chooses very solid lines playing with white and makes draws very effectively. So I think that's what is going to happen in this game as well. I predict a draw in this pairing. And last but not least, Fabi versus Jan Nepomniachtchi. This will probably be the decisive game for the whole tournament, because Fabi will be half a point behind, if my predictions are correct, at that point. So he will have to go all in. He will need a win or nothing. If he draws, it's practically equivalent to losing for him. So he will go all in. He will risk, he will play something unusual, maybe. He will choose some unorthodox line. Maybe he'll go for one b3 or one knight f3 and then b3 and e3. Maybe something else, I don't know. I don't have the files on Fabi's computer, but I think he will try to surprise Jan, because going one e4 and combating Jan's Petrov's defense is not a clever idea in such a position. Maybe he will go one d4 or one c4 and try to play for like lone positional game. I don't know, but we will see. But I predict actually that Fabi will overpress. He's not in his best shape in this tournament. Yes, he is a phenomenally strong player, and on a good day, no one can beat him, and he slices through any opposition like a knife through butter. But I don't think that these are the days that we see the top form Fabi. He recently said in an interview that he wasn't feeling well in the middle of the tournament, probably some health issues. I hope he has recovered, but still I don't feel the strength of him. Yesterday's game, for example, when he won against Vidit Gujarati with white pieces, didn't show the best Fabi. Yes, he got an advantage and managed to win, but he did not make the most precise moves, and I have a gut feeling that Fabi is not in his top form and will not return to his top form. Whereas Jan is very solid and uses his opportunities very well in this tournament, so I think that Jan will win because Fabi will overpress. And that will make Jan Nepomniachtchi the sole winner of the event. I'm not saying all this just because I'm originally from Russia. If you don't know who I am, I used to live in Russia. After the war, I had to flee the country because of the fact that I criticized Putin and the war, and that was very dangerous at that period of time, and that is very dangerous for such people to remain in Russia. But I am still Russian. Of course, I don't stop to be Russian and to be rooting for Jan, who is a good acquaintance of mine. But I'm not saying this prediction just because of that. Of course, I want Jan to win, but I think that this is the most likely result. Something tells me that this will happen. Maybe you think I'm wrong, maybe you think I'm crazy or stupid. Write it in the comments, write your predictions, so that we can, once everything finishes, we can compare, and somebody will say, I told you, or I will say, I told you. So that will be a nice feeling. Anyway, regardless of how the candidates will end, I'm definitely sure that I will be making further videos about the event, about the upcoming rounds, so stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't yet done so, and see you in the next one. Goodbye.